So first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I'm really grateful.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. So the first question I want to ask you is just to introduce yourself in a nutshell. Tell us a little bit about yourself, tell the audience, and tell us your age as well and where you're from.
Sure. Well, I just turned 27 last week. I am an entrepreneur. I've had a lot of previous projects in the past. I've had a clothing company. I've had a design agency. I also train other entrepreneurs to grow their companies online. And now currently I'm creating a new agency whereby we are going to be aiming for the professional service industry. And that's all geared around helping our clients to generate more customers online. So all of my projects, companies and brands in the past have all been really framed around, generating customers online, if it be the clothing company, if it be my training courses or my online programs, or, helping my clients. I help pretty much anyone to get more customers online and to grow their brand as well.
Brilliant. Oh my God, that sounds amazing, Jamie. You're so young, yet so experienced and so talented.
I feel old. When I look at the progress that has happened in the past, 2 years, I feel old because I'm like, well, what was I doing for the first 6 years? But, that kind of takes a process where you have to learn what really works, and you kind of get quicker and quicker as you push forward and sort of as you get more older into your age as well. So I just had to be conscious of that, and
That is really, really good. I know what you mean. Sometimes when, you just look back and think, what was I doing? But I think you've done amazing. And I believe everybody watching would actually agree as well. So what actually gave you that inspiration to break into the entrepreneurial world in the first place? Like, how did you get there? Like, did you wake up one day with an epiphany? I know that you have a background of, being a bit more introverted. I think, so maybe talk a little bit about that and how you transitioned.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's quite interesting because I left high school in year 10, partly because of my speaking impediment that I still have now today, but I've somewhat learned to keep it not under control, but learned to embrace it. And I think people should embrace their obstacles, because I think they ultimately take them to a place where they can win. So example of that is that I left high school, end of year 10, and I went into a 3-year IT course because my plan was to not have to speak to anyone, right? So I was like, well, keyboards, I don't have to really speak. I can just email and do things online. So I went into a course, 3 years of doing IT. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I'm all set. I don't have to speak to, say, anyone ever again. And I went to get employed. And of course, everyone's like, can you do help desk? Can you do phone support? Can you handle our clients? And I was like, no. And so at that point, I felt like I couldn't get employed, not because I didn't have the skills, but because I refused to talk and my sort of speech was still not as sharp as it is today. So because of that, I was like, well, can I do client work? Who do I know that needs the skills that say I have? And I think my first client was my friend's older brother. And then that led to, client 2, and that led to client 3, client 4. And I began my first design agency at the age of 18 or 17. I think it was 17. And then, well, that's 10 years ago. Wow, that just hit me.
Oh my God, 10 years ago.
That's insane. Okay. So that was my first project, and then fast forward a year after, I began a clothing company. Not because I had any experience, or not because I had a sort of opportunity, but because I was doing clothing for other companies, and I just liked the sort of process. I thought, well, this looks pretty cool. And then I was like, well, how cool would it be to then also have a clothing company as well? So I began that clothing company, and then after I had these two, and then after I had the design agency and the clothing company, I began to get a little bit of attention about how I was able to sort of grow these quickly, and then I began to teach other entrepreneurs as well. And all this skill set came because I dropped out of high school because I, embraced my speaking impediment and I used it as sort of a pathway to figure out what I should do next. So I began to learn everything I could about, about online campaigns, email marketing, SEO, copywriting, all of that. Not because I had to, but because I felt like I didn't have a choice. To see, so some people enter a industry because they enjoy it. Other people enter an industry because it might pay really well. I entered mine because I felt like I didn't have a choice. I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to speak or do help desk or handle clients or do anything that requires a human interaction. So how can I earn income online without using actual voice? So now I am very grateful for this current challenge I have because it's just pushed me into where I am today. And I think it's quite unique. And I think if everyone was to embrace their challenges, I think they would all win, really. Yeah.
That sounds so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that. Happy 10th anniversary for when you started.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's crazy.
That's a really great revelation. Basically, so when you initially quit, college or school, and you just dropped out of high school, I mean, how did your family feel about this? Sometimes entrepreneurs have this, or people have this vision, of doing all of this stuff, but then the family just think, what are you doing? Just, crazy. And how did they respond? Were they supportive?
Quite interesting. Well, they were supportive because they knew I was just going to keep failing high school. So it was like, well, he's not doing overly well at a high school how it is now, so let's put him into this 3-year course and see what happens there. So it wasn't the fact that I wasn't doing anything else. Like I was doing a course at the age of 16 or 15, and so I was out of high school, but I was in a more adult environment, so that was quite good. And I think if people do drop out of high school or say if they choose to drop out of college, I think they do need to have a plan in place before they drop out. So either, additional training or have some sort of employment there. But I think if people were to drop out before they have anything, then it's very hard to, switch gears into that hustle mode if it's not pre-planned. So my parents were very, they were supportive, but they were hesitant. They're like, well, we shouldn't because he's out of high school, but high school's not really doing too well. So I think it was the only option, really.
Sort of like a catch-22 where it's,
It was, yeah.
Oh, but it's good that you had that conviction and that your family supported you and that you went for it. I think a lot of people in many situations, whether it's a health problem or just anything, whether it's just challenges in life, they sometimes know what to do, but they don't do it. So it's a very brave move.
It wasn't intentional. So it was through high school. It was just traumatic. And because as you get higher up in, year 8, 9, 10, 11, and say 12, there's a lot more presentations, like you get asked upon class constantly. And I was being graded for the words I was saying as opposed to what I knew. So that wasn't congruent in sort of my sort of skill set. And my intention was just to quit high school and, be sort of like a slob all day, if you will. But of course, my parents weren't happy with that choice. So I chose to do IT because I always had an interest in computers and that sort of online platform, but I didn't ever think I would actually get employed under. I had no intention to. I had no intention to become a sort of entrepreneur. It kind of just happened organically because I needed income, and I was bored and I had a client. I was like, okay, sure, I can help out. I think I earned like $45 for that 2-week project, and I was like, this is pretty cool, you know. So I didn't drop out of high school having any of this plan. It was just kind of being open to what opportunities came around and just seeing how far I could push it. It wasn't really until I was like 19, 20, I was like, well, maybe I can do something with this, you know. So I think it happened around the time when I had the clothing company, and I was like, well, you know, I do have enough cash to now launch out another brand. So that was kind of the sort of turning point, and just being conscious that actually it's interesting. By the time I hit age, I think it was like 20 or maybe 21, I was conscious that I wouldn't be employed ever again. And that was kind of cool. I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool. And I just began pushing it more and more.
Wow. So you had that epiphany that you just knew that you weren't ever going to be employed. And it was just,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, so that kind of happened organically. As I said, I didn't have the intention for it to happen that way, but I sort of treated it every day as it came almost.
That's so good. And I kind of had a situation where I was sort of doing badly at university, but it was because I was on the wrong course. I was trying to live someone else's dream and I wasn't going for my own. And I think if you're, yeah, exactly. I think if you're sort of slightly off a path, the difference between, you know, success and failure could just be 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters. And so the courses were sort of similar, but also very different. So
got it.
Yeah. So I think, once again, I think once you just took that step, I kind of guess that doors opened for you and you went through the doors. So you took opportunities. You didn't just sit there.
Pretty much. And it's really interesting. Like, if you've got friends or family members, then you've got this sort of platform to start up a project or start up a sort of company, because your first customers or clients will always be your friends and family, right?
Exactly.
And I would call it, for like the first 2 years, about 2 years, it was like all my friends and all of my family and their friends really became, you know, like clients and, you know, customers. And it's kind of like, you know, people are concerned whenever they launch a new project that they won't have the sort of clientele there, but look at your closest connections, and that should be enough for at least half a year to 2 years. And then after that 2 year period, I was like, okay, well, now I've kind of exhausted my actual connections. Now let me begin pushing out forward. So it was being conscious. It was not having opportunities presented. It was more creating them, as to seeing what friends I could help out, seeing what family people I could help out as well with my skill sets, and just really creating opportunities as opposed to allowing them to sort of come to you. I mean, something I've learned a lot in the past 12 months is that nothing will happen unless you do it. Like, if you want a sort of opportunity, cultivate it, or like create the sort of create the sort of environment where that can happen. And I've had this proven to me so many times, and I keep learning it, where I will get too comfortable and I'm not actively creating opportunities, or I'm not putting myself in a place where new things can happen as well. So I don't think people should try to sit back and hope that sort of comes to them. I think people have to actively go and create them.
Yes, I agree with you totally, definitely. So you heard that, everyone, whoever's watching or listening, and make sure you go out there and, you know, do as Jamie says, you know, look for those opportunities and make things happen, because it's true. And don't get complacent. I do agree with that. Okay, so another question I want to ask you is just about you working across 70 industries. So how did this all happen? You know, because obviously you said that I love what you said about exhausting your friends and family. I think that relates to me in some way, because when I initially started a home, like a kind of freelance hairdressing business,
Fantastic.
I did my mother's hair once in extensions, and a lady in the hairdressers or in a shop saw her and was like, oh my God, who did your hair? It's amazing. And she was like, can you get the person to do mine? And she was like, oh, it's my daughter. And she was like, oh my God, I have to book her.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's so good.
Yeah, and it just, you know, like you said, it actually just took off from there. It was like I did her hair, and then she kept coming back, and then it was friends and cousins and sisters and my mum, and it just became like the whole, my brother's friends and my brother's friends' friends and my dad. And it was like, sometimes I would do like 3 hairs in one day, and I had customers every week, and they're all paying me. But like you said, I exhausted it. Sorry.
So it's kind of interesting that, like, people get concerned about how to generate clients online, and they get caught up in, like the whole email marketing and the social platforms. If you have a good product and good work, as you just said, like if you do a good job with your client or your customer, they will refer you to everyone, right? So as opposed to being caught up in your content plan or like, spending too much time, trying to get everything perfect, just do a really good job with the first customer or sort of the first client you have, and you always have customers and clients, always, right? So people get caught up in sort of the online platforms too much, as opposed to really executing at a high enough level that then people will forward them clients endlessly. Prime example, as you just said, right? Like you had friends of friends and their cousins and everyone coming to do a really good job from that first client, which was your mother.
Do you know what, Jamie? It's like giving me like sort of, what's the word? Aha moments, because it's so true. Like a lot of entrepreneurs want clients, and usually they just start with obviously social media, but they think, oh no, I can't get a client. And it's like, well, like you said, have you done a good job with the client you have at the moment, or what have you done to so I think this is just hopefully an eye-opener.
What have you done to really have that client talk about you?
Yes,
primarily that is the overarching approach. Like create something that then they will go talk about to their friends and their families and sort of everyone else. And that's kind of what I've been doing a lot over the last, 3 to 6 months, is like trying to create trying to impress the sort of client so that they would then, forward me on to their friends on that. And also on the flip side of that, if you are doing advertising, say if you are doing, content campaigns and sort of anything online, how can you create jealousy in your prospects because of your clients? Right, so talk about your clients, how sort of great they are doing online, and then make them jealous that they're not your clients. Right, prime example again. I love that. With their hair, your mum had great hair. Her friend was like, "That's great. I'm somewhat jealous, probably.
Yeah,
how do I get that?" Prime example. So create a sort of really good product that, when people are holding or when they talk about their friends, family, prospects, whoever, get jealous about it as well. Like if you have a really good product, you win over anything else if you keep doing the work. And yes, you can do, content and sort of like, Instagram as well, but it's like, do you have something unique, something that people want to talk about and that they'll share with their connections as well?
That is amazing. That is really, really, I love everything you're talking about because, like you said, I mean, the jealousy factor. I mean, people don't like to talk about that sometimes. They say, oh,
make your prospects jealous of your clients. Hands down, literally. If you can do that, you'll be completely fine in any industry.
I love that. It's so true because one of the things that we do, I've got one of my businesses at the moment, that was like back in the day, but now it's like I have two. One's like a pageant business, which is called UK's Dazzling Beauty. Yeah, it's like it's so different compared to what most people are doing. And then I had like the PR and media business. But with the pageant business, one of the things that we love to do, like what you're saying, is we go out and make appearances. So we attend all these events and then it's all about get them onto Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and let people see and actually want to they should, sorry, I thought I lost you there. They should think, oh my God, they should be thinking, wow, look what they're doing. I need to be in that pageant. I need to be one of those girls. I need to be one of those women. So that's like you said, that's sort of, it's like our way of inviting them without saying.
Not being too pushy, right?
Exactly. Just making them have a feel of the experience, and then they just want to just join it and be part. So yeah.
Awesome. So to answer your sort of question about how I got into those other industries with my clients, it kind of just happened. I mean, now I think it's more than that. I think it's 80 or 85. I haven't counted in like 3 years. It could be more. I don't know. I don't want to count. I think I think 70 is fine.
Exactly.
It just happened whereby I have a sort of unique skill set that can be applied across any industry. And I think most skill sets I think people get it's sort of two sort of schools of thought. The first is that you can go abroad and that you can get as much experience as you can across, 70 plus different industries, and that's great. However, now for the new agency, we're going smaller, and now we're only doing, I think we're serving 12 or 13 different industries as opposed to everyone. So how that happened for me over the last 8 years, it just kind of just grew like organically, like where friends would know friends and they would be in sort of a different niche, and then I'll help out them as well. I was just in a very good industry, and I have a very good skill set that, can be applied to sort of any industry relatively easily. So that's how that happened. It just kind of grew from there.
Wow, that's so good. Do you think, Jamie, that you have a growth mindset?
I would imagine so, yes. I think it's more of a progressive mindset than a growth. And the way that I see that, when you said growth, what came to mind was like a sort of expansion. As progressive, I think of it as a constant pushing forward. There's no real difference. I mean, it's kind of just how I frame it. As long as I'm sort of progressing every day, then I'm pretty happy, right? And the times when I'm at my low points, which, everyone has them, is usually because I'm not progressing, or I've, slacked off, or I haven't been congruent in what I know I should be doing.
Yeah, definitely. So do you mean, like, for example, if you get like stuck, like in terms of, let's say, for example, let me just give you an example. You're trying to launch a product, you're trying to promote something, and then maybe you've got to a point where you're sort of in the middle and you feel sort of stuck and nothing's really happening, but maybe things are happening, but you don't feel it. Is that what you mean? Like, sort
of, yeah. So in terms of progression, sort of every day, anything that I know is actively pushing the company or the clients or sort of the sort of brand forward. I mean, I'm not concerned about results per se. I mean, yes, they're good, but it's more like, am I putting out the right amount of output? Because the results will happen anyway. But it's like, if I'm putting out, 20 hours per day, then I'm happy. If I'm putting out 4 hours per day, it's like, I feel kind of weird. And then it leads up to tomorrow being a really average day as well, right? So it's not so much being concerned about the results, because I know they'll happen if I just have the output, right? So don't focus on this sort of scorecard. Focus on the sort of play by play, and I think that is how you always win. I think if you begin to sort of count your score, you begin to do things that might give you a sort of immediate score, but won't help you out long term. So focus on the output is kind of what I say.
Oh, that's so good. So I've been saying good so much. I have to try and find something that could be possibly a weakness of yours, or not weakness in terms of like a personal weakness, but maybe, I don't know, something that like maybe, what do you think is maybe something that you don't do so well? Because everything you've done so far, like everything I've heard, I'm like, so good. So what do you think could be?
My biggest drawback is that I get too caught up in the sort of everyday tasks as opposed to doing the high level tasks that are more draining and more lame, I guess, So like, example would be, my clients always do really well, but how come I'm not applying those tactics to the company every day?
Okay.
Kind of like, if you have a look at any coach, or say any sort of trainer, or say anyone who helps their clients to achieve a certain result, usually their clients are doing more than themselves, and you see it consistently. Like, people don't have the time to put energy into their own projects, but they always have the sort of time to help out their clients and that. So the big flaw, and something that I've been learning over the last 12 months, is to focus on sort of long-term tasks that will not give gratification now and not do anything currently, but say in like 2 or 3 years will pay off heavily. Things like, so in that category, I put things like doing content, something that I don't put out a lot of blog articles. I might put out maybe 12 per year. That's not good enough, right? Or, I might film a clip every 2 or 3 weeks. That's not good enough either. But it's kind of like I need to be doing those tasks that don't give me anything up front, but in the long term will pay out constantly. So things that actually grow the company as opposed to responding to clients hectically, and as opposed to doing things that are cute, So I think people need to be honest and upfront and go, okay, like what are the 4 or 5 things that will then help me to actually grow this brand, or to help me to grow this company. And usually they're not the most prettiest, they're not the most enjoyable, and they kind of suck. But if you push through them, like every single day, you are going to be in an amazing place. And something that I would like to do, and that I am going to commit to in the new year, which is in about 4 days, is I am going to, at least try to hit this every single day, try to spend 3 hours doing these sort of long-term tasks and long-term projects. And if I can hit that every day, it would be phenomenal. Like when I began tracking this, I actually learned this from a book by Darren Hardy called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. Really good book. I recommend everyone flick through it. It's sort of like a ground level how to be a sort of entrepreneur and not screw up so much. So what Hardy was actually talking about is that when he was in property, which is years ago, he used to spend, I think he said the thing that kind of drives his company forward was actually getting sales for his property company. And he tracked that he was doing that under 20 minutes per day, right? That's nothing. And when he began to actively focus on the sort of key drivers for the brand and then for the company, things just escalated. Like if you can focus on leads and sales per day and actively spend an hour to 3 hours on that per day, every single day, you'll be far ahead. And usually it is hard. Like usually you're not sure what to do to actually create that. But I'm going to commit to sort of 3 hours per day of doing the important company tasks that I might not enjoy, but that will pay off in the long term. Because what I did for the first 6 years is that I confused activity with progress. So just because I'm really hectic and really flat out, I'm not always pushing forward. And that took me 6 years to learn that. So I'm still getting that habit out of it. And I'm a lot more improved at that sort of skill set. But that would be one flaw that I'm currently trying to even out.
Yes, that sounds really good. So what do you consider, I mean, because you've just said some really, really important things, which I think is so true and good, such as, I mean, you mentioned, for example, in a way, kind of like being busy, but not really doing anything, like productive. Well, if I was to use it because obviously where you are now, you've got to a point where you're working with lots of brands. And so in a way, you probably would never be as unproductive as some more beginners in the entrepreneurial space. But
it depends. I'm sure if I challenge myself, I could be unproductive.
Okay. Like you mentioned, for example, leads and sales. What do you think that entrepreneurs need to do to be generating those leads and sales? I mean, I know it's going to be different for every company, but if you were to say, 3 or 4 money generating activities that they could focus on weekly, what do you think that it needs to be?
Excellent question. And I can answer that from what I am planning and what I'm currently doing. And that is, the first is to make connections. Like actually go out and meet people. Either go to networking events, either go online and find groups. Look, I mean, if you have a look at any project, any company, any sales team, anything in any industry, they all serve people, right? It's a people to, but it's a person to a person industry always. So you need to get in front of more people, either offline or online, So I always look at growing connections as sort of a key driver now, but and not just sort of growing it, sort of spam them, but actually growing them and saying, hey, what are you working on? And can I help out? And that's the most time consuming task of my day. I have about 40 unread inboxes, and probably all of them won't spend a cent with me. However, they will talk about me to their friends, and their friends will go, "Oh, great, I might hire Jamie." You know, so that is sort of the first one, is to focus on say your actual connections. Focus on, you know, trying to grow, trying to tell people what it is that you do, and then trying to help them as well. So that's the first most important one. If you can do anything, do that one. After that is, I would suggest content. But not content in sort of the usual approach where you know, would say put up an article and then hope for the best. I would put up an article or some blog or some podcast that is aimed to help out the actual industry, and then pay to promote it as well, because a lot of content people are paying to, you know, really promote content. And I think if you take that approach, even if it's like 10 or say $20 per week, and then if you keep doing that week after week after week, you'll grow your connections, and you have people, you know, begin to learn about you as well. I mean, I actually, this clicked for me a year and a half ago, where I had some client came through. I think he spent around $2,500, and I put up a $10 blog post, which I was like, "Hey, here's a new blog," and the client didn't even read it. Client's like, "Oh, that headline of that content is exactly what I need." So what he did is he clicked on it and he went to the contact page, right? So it's not so much about you know, having people consume your content. It is more about people seeing me linked to that outcome. Like, oh, he's the person behind that. So I would focus on connections and content with advertising. And the third is to just, you know, look at who else you can partner up with. Now, this is a bit more advanced, a little bit more tactical, but look at who is serving your sort of customer and or client, which you can also partner up with. So look at, you know, coaches who are coaching your client, or look at what other products your sort of client purchases. Look at what has to happen before they become your client. Look what happens after they, you know, after they purchase from you, and then what do they purchase from next. A prime example is, I've got a friend who is launching out a phenomenal property company, and what he's doing is he's partnering with property agents, because they have the leads, and he's also partnering with the actual furniture companies as well, because what happens is a lead will purchase the property, that's where he gets the lead from, and they'll go purchase, you know, new furniture as well. So look at your full customer or client purchase journey, and see if you can connect with, you know, what happens prior and what happens afterwards, and see if you can create like a lead referral or some sort of commission with that person, but do it from a point of view of actually helping them, right? So look to see, as opposed to look for a place where you can, you know, get leads from. Look at people that your client or customer is sort of spending time with, that then you can help them as well. So pretty much anything I do, and sort of anything I'm sort of teaching here, should come from the frame of actually helping out people as much as you can. So I would focus on connections, content, and look at who else your sort of customer and or client is spending time through, and, you know, try to create a joint venture partnership through that.
Brilliant. I love that. I mean, especially like you said with the advanced one, the partnership thing, because a lot of people maybe don't have the followers or the platform or the audience, and like you said, the collaborations could be so good and beneficial for both parties. I mean, even like you said, something like this kind of long-term thing of being interviewed, or whether it be something like that, it's like, it could be, let's say you do this interview, you might have like a really big audience compared to me, but I could have an audience, like somebody, it could be 3 people in my community that could be like, just sign up like that with you, or that know somebody. Do you get, it's just,
it is.
Yeah, so I think it's really,
I think it's all about just getting yourself out there as much as you can, and sort of having clarity in what it is that you do. So something that I learned was that actually even now it still somewhat happens, but I'm slowly correcting it. So when I first began, when I was 17, 18, people knew I was doing something cool, but they're not sure what, So that was impossible for them to then forward me clients and then forward me referrals. The most successful companies and, sort of singular entrepreneurs have a super clear project for a super clear niche, right? So I think if you're doing, content, interviews, anything like that, ensure that you're able to communicate who it is that you help easily, so that then even if that interview does go out to say 10 people, at least those 10 people are super clear on what it is that you ultimately can help them out with.
That is so good. It's so true, because it's like if you're too,
people are half in and half out. Like you can't be half gangster. Like you have to go all in and commit to owning a sort of title and owning a sort of niche, if you will. Like I love creating companies. I've created 4 so far now, and I've got a list of like another 100 that I'm keen to create. But I've now learned, focus on the one project first, grow that, and then if the time is right, begin to transition, right? These sort of people who are doing really well always focus on a single thing, but as sort of new entrepreneurs, we kind of chase everything all at once, which is great fun, and it's really enjoyable, and it might pay for the short term, because you have a lot happening, but soon you have to begin treating it like you need to begin treating it like a company as opposed to a hobby. And I think once you make that transition and you begin to commit to it, and then you begin to go all in, things just get a lot easier, and things just begin to sort of slide and become real smooth.
That sounds so good. Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you, Jamie.
Sure.
One is just a little bit just off topic. It's basically about Australia, because you live in Australia, don't you?
I do, yeah, correct.
Were you born there? And also, just tell us about Australia and
cool.
What is it like living in? Is it Adelaide that you live in?
Adelaide, yes, correct. I was born here. LA is down south of Australia. Right down. It's a small town. I think it has 1.2 million people, so relatively smallish town. But yeah, it is good. And I've been here my whole life. Haven't really lived anywhere else. I've lived in Sydney and Melbourne a little bit, but other than that, I primarily operate from this headquarters here. And then. Yeah, I mean, it is good. Yeah.
That's good. So tell us about Australia. I mean, you've been to London, haven't you? So what would you say is the difference between London, we have the same accent in a way, but not exactly, but sort of.
London wasn't too much of a cultural shock. It felt like
that's good.
Sydney, where it was just really, really hectic and people everywhere, but I loved it, and there's not much difference in how people operate, in sort of how people purchase. I think it's the same approach, I think, anyway. But I was only there for like 6 weeks, I think 6 weeks. So I didn't get to see. Well, I was there twice. I was in there in August and in there again in October, September, I think, as well. So, but I mean, while I was there, it felt like Australia in the point that people were doing the same purchasing choices. People were doing the same advertising. There wasn't too much difference, I think. So I think if sort of any entrepreneur was to come from here and go over to there, I think it would be slightly harder because there's more competition. But in terms of the sort of purchasing process, I don't think it's any dramatic change for those customers over there.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah. I guess the main difference for us as Brits would be the weather. Just going to Australia I mean, it's baking out there, and I think
I just moved my computer because it's so warm out there, and
oh really? And you can feel the heat.
It is too much. Yeah, 35 today, so 35 degrees, which is normal.
Yeah, I think honestly speaking, I was born in the UK. I mean, I know I'm actually Nigerian, my parents, but I was born in the UK, and I've lived here all my life. But the thing is, I went to Nigeria recently, and you just can't take too much sun. Like, that's just something about the Brits. We can't take, like, you just can't. I mean, you can enjoy it for a bit. You can enjoy it.
Interesting. I was on the tube, and there was these posters everywhere on like every single stop that was warning of a heat wave of like 24 degrees. I'm like, 24 degrees? Are you kidding? That's not a heat wave.
Oh my God.
It's a normal cool day here. So
wow.
So I did find that interesting. Probably because I think our sort of highest is like 46, 47.
Oh my
degrees.
God.
And that's hot.
That is a joke.
So when I saw a heat wave, for like 24 degrees, I was like, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That is exactly how it is. And it's like, even when it's hot here, when we get to that 24 or whatever it would be, 21 is even like, we're just like, look, everywhere needs to be closed. We need to stop, they need to close. All the shops need to be, no businesses should be open. Like, everyone just thinks that, 26 is like, oh my God, that's it. All the, so, and then I think also because of winter, like, when it comes to the Christmas season, everyone wants to have like a Christmas that's where they can wear their boots and their hats and their gloves and their scarf.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, a lot of British people are moving to Australia, and they have been for so many years. So there must be some great, like, Australia must be, I mean, I've heard so many good things, so I can't wait to visit one day. I really will. Thank you. So another question I want to ask you quickly, it's to do with your social media following.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, tell us a bit about, like, what do you use? I know you're on Instagram and on Facebook, and I actually found you through Instagram. I think you, so that's how I discovered you. You must have liked my photo or something. Yeah. And then I sort of, when you click on and check the person, and I was like, oh wow, it's really good. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. And then I always look for people to interview or to connect with, like you said, things like that. So I was like, hold on, this guy looks really interesting. What he's doing is really good. I didn't really see this sort of half-hearted. I saw real, like, passion and stuff. So I was like, let me check out YouTube, and let me check out this. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to interview him. I've got to follow him. So I guess I want to know, like, how do you, what platforms do you use? How do you leverage social media? And how did you grow your Instagram to, like, thousands and thousands?
Yeah, well, in terms of, say, Instagram, I think I'm at 11.4K now, which is pretty good.
Which is fantastic.
And that kind of happened just through, putting out content, obviously, and, and sort of strategically interacting with certain hashtags, right? So I believe I found yours through a podcast hashtag. I don't know if you use that hashtag at all, or for some interview or somewhere.
Probably,
So I was actively looking for, say, hashtags which I can interact and, really grow those actual connections with. There's no real secret to it, rather than just interacting and sort of caring what people are actually uploading online, and then creating a sort of opportunity that you're saying, being congruent in your own history, and just being a sort of really cool person that, say, people would like to meet, and people would like to actually talk to. I mean, I think you can sort of take that to a certain degree, but I think people can see through it usually.
They can,
and eventually. I think it's just being congruent, putting out good sort of content, and trying to connect with as many people as you can.
That sounds so good. So, okay, perfect. And then I think I wanted just to ask, if there's anything, before I, like, kind of give you the opportunity to let everyone know your website and all of your social media. I mean, by the way, I want to ask, do you use Snapchat? Because that like,
I do, but it's interesting because I use it for personal use more than marketing. And the reason for that is because my clientele that I want to reach are on Snap. They might be on Snapchat, but it's not where they spend the most of their time. So I'm always looking at what, like, where do they discover their content through? And it's always going to be Facebook or YouTube or Google search for, say, the next 2 or 3 years at least. I mean, Snapchat is a great platform, and it's very engaging, but it's not for the clients I want, and it's not really for direct call to action, I think, depending on your sort of industry. I mean, you can sort of argue this constantly, but I'm not using it for my own training brands, and I'm not using it for the agency. However, if you were a personal trainer, if you sort of had a sort of, Instagram following, if you sort of had other platforms created, then yes, bring them across onto Snapchat, because it just creates another touch point. But I don't think it's a place where a brand should begin. I think it's a place where a brand should upgrade to.
That sounds, Okay,
awesome.
So I want to say thank you so much, Jamie, for being here all the way from Australia, even though, it's online, but I'm really grateful.
Thank you very much.
I hope you found the interview to be very interesting. Do you have any final words that you want to say before you share where everyone can find you?
There's a lot of things I would love to say, but I will just tell people to do the things that they do not want to do, that they know they should do to get to the place they want to be. Like, everyone knows what they should be doing in any given situation. Like, if someone had a gun to your head and said, what is the right thing to do, you would know what the right thing
immediately
to do it is. So, treat it as that. Treat it as that urgent. Treat it as that important with every decision and every sort of interaction you have every day. So that's what I would say. I would say, do the things you should do that you don't want to do, that will get you to where you want to be.
Brilliant. Thank you. So where can everyone find you? Tell us your website.
If they go to jamiestenhouse.com, that's my primarily hangout spot. If you want to check out the agency, go to marketitans.com.au. That's our agency, and I will give you a link to that as well. And the book I recommended was Darren Hardy's Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster book. So yeah.
Oh yes, that was the one. And all about your just so quickly, your Instagram handle.
I think it's Jamie Stenhouse, one word. I need to
cool.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much. Then you have a lovely. Is it evening now? Evening or morning?
I don't even know. Evening.
Evening. Okay. Have a lovely evening. I'll have. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.